really just looking at spacing right now.
Hello friends and welcome to the Urban Homesteading channel. I'm Professor DIY and behind the camera in the scenes is Elpida and Mrs. DIY. So today we're going to do another decoration piece, or actually we're going to make 3 pieces. They are all going to be of the rustic variety, right? They're going to be quite different, but they have the same function. They're going to be candle holders, right? So today we're going to start with something like this. And we are going to finish with this. Then we're going to take a branch, almost untreated, just cut in half, right? Like this. And we are going to build this and this. And this is for Elpida.
Yep.
My design, Mrs. DIY's design. So, you know, we all 3 had an input in this.
Mm-hmm.
So this is, I would call a beginner project. Would you guys agree?
Yeah.
Now, we use some power tools, but you do not need to use power tools in this to complete this project, right? We use them because we have them and for speed. Really, you only need the saw to do everything we showed you here and some way to sand, right?
And a drill.
A power sander, yeah, I don't consider a drill a tool.
Okay.
A power sander will be very useful. It will make your life much easier.
It'll go faster.
Much faster. I mean, if you have to hand sand all of this, that would be a process. But really, you can do it with minimal tools. Let's put it that way, right? Now, if you have a bandsaw and you have a drill press, that makes your life easier, but again, not required.
What are you doing, Elpida?
Marking 1-inch squares, and then these are candle cups.
Candle cups.
We're going to make a candle holder.
They look like thimbles.
They do a little bit. And this ruler is exactly 1 inch wide, so that makes it real easy for me to just line it up and mark out the 1 inch spacing. I was originally going to do 1/2 inch because they're 1/2 inch candles that I have, but as you can see, the cups have a little rim on them.
Which is why we're using them, so we get a better understanding, right? I mean,
right. So we're
it's
getting
always a good idea to use your hardware in a dry fitting sense, right?
Right. And so this particular candle holder is going to have 7 candles. Now we've got 6. Again, I'm just doing a 1 inch spacing in between them as well.
And in this case, the pencil marks, we don't have to really worry about removing them.
Right, because we're going to do my favorite thing and burn.
Yeah. And
Burn,
take care of those
burn,
pencil
right.
marks.
Going to flame on.
But it's nice for placement.
Right, exactly. And so there, we've got our 7 lined up. So this is going to be the end of our candle holder, and then we'll drill the hole for each one of those. And we're going to use a drill press for that.
All right.
So we're working, and I don't know if we're going to end up using it or not, but we're thinking to make a jig so we do not have to measure any of them, right? We found every single one. We found the middle. This is a piece of this board.
Right, we took a piece off the end that we didn't need.
And we found the exact middle, and we're going to use our drill press to just go down, right?
Right, and we're going to go all the way through this jig,
Correct.
right? Because this is going to be our template. The jig is a template, really, for exactly where to put the holes on the piece that we want to keep.
And we'll line this way on each section. And now we're just going to look at how we're going to keep this in place while we're drilling.
A drill press is faster than a handheld drill and ensures that we're going to be perfectly straight, which something like that would be very obvious if you're not straight in every single one of your openings. Other than that, it is not a requirement. You can use a handheld press or some cheaper jigs that allow you to make straight holes. So again, we're using it because we have it, but it's absolutely not necessary to complete this project. So now we're working on a little jig, and hot glue is hot.
Indeed it is.
Put a lot, don't be stingy.
That's stingy.
And the idea behind this is what, Elpida?
But once we put this over the log that we're using, the 4x4, these two pieces are going to hold it exactly in place because this is a piece of this.
Of course, we might be completely wrong, but you know.
Hot glue still gluing. It's got a little bit of a wiggle, but
Well,
we can.
it will be less of
can
a
hold
wiggle
it.
than every time
Yeah,
trying
but-
to find the
But
center.
we can hold it tight here. We could even put a clamp to help hold it in place, and that will keep it centered
No,
on
we
the
don't
board.
need a clamp.
Don't need no
We
clamp.
don't need no stinking clamp.
Okay.
All right.
What are we doing?
What are we doing? So we've made the jig, which as you can see slides right down over our piece that we're going to be working on. I still have all of the 1-inch spaces that I marked earlier. I put a tick mark on each one of the pieces that we're going to drill. We're going to have about a 1-inch in between each. And so now our piece, we cut it at 1 inch as well so that we could line it up. We've got a line here, so I'm going to tap it just a little bit that way, and now I've lined up on this side as well. That's going to keep it on center and in the right spot. And then we can hold this and bring the drill down. And we've set a stop here as well, if you want to come look at that, to make sure our drill bit stops at the correct depth. And we had to accommodate both our jig as well as the depth that we wanted to go. Where did our little cup go? Is it hiding?
And now your drill
Yeah.
press might be a little different, but all drill
Right.
presses have a stop.
Right. And so the idea is that we are accommodating both this jig as well as a depth to accommodate our cup. And we are going a little bit deeper to make sure that we have plenty of clearance and we're not going to have to re-drill anything. So we set our stop for that.
And we're a little OCD for this simple project, you know. It doesn't have to be perfect, but we're all OCD here at the Urban Homesteading channel.
Some of us more than others, yes.
Again, neither the jig nor the drill press are necessary, but in our case made the process faster and more accurate. You can do it with a handheld drill just fine. Okay, now we need to move the block.
Raise this.
Raise the tick.
So now we're lining up the piece to make sure that we have the length we want. We didn't cut it until we knew for sure exactly where the holes would be. But now we have a mark that's 1 inch from the previous hole. And we're going to go ahead and slice off the excess.
Sanding softens the edges, and again is not necessary, and you can hand sand it or even use a handheld orbital sander. You're going to achieve very similar results. Because this will be a piece inside the house and it's going to be always visible, leaving the edges very sharp, it's a matter of preference. Elpida liked them to be much softer than the sharp edges, and that's where we're taking this step. It's totally optional in any case, and it is a matter of personal preference. Now Elpida is wearing welding gloves. Why are you wearing the gloves, Elpida, when you're not welding?
Because this thing will get really hot and you're holding it. You want to make sure that you have something that it won't block all the heat, but it definitely helps a little bit. And also, should you happen to get your fingers a little too close to the flame, it'll help protect them a little bit too.
Safety first.
Hopefully you don't do that, but just in cases.
And I don't know if it is visible on camera, but you see water coming off the top of the globe as you're hitting it. You see?
So what looks like smoke is water.
Yes.
We're having the flame be stationary and having me move the block around.
There is something mesmerizing about this wood burning process that originated in Japan and initially was for protecting wood from rot from projects that they were outside. In fact, they used to do that through whole structures in their houses to protect them from the elements. In any case, I never get tired of watching this process. I always enjoy it, and I think it's a great thing to do to the wood as it creates a very unique and a very interesting finish.
I know. I know. Oh. I can see the actor, and I know the actor's name. I can't think of the character's name.
And here is our part.
Our part.
Charcoal, charred.
Yeah. Shusugi ban.
And the next step is you have to use a brush, and there is a lot of charcoal. You don't even see it here, but there is a lot of charcoal. We're going to show you in a moment. And when you use a Suki band, always you need to remove that,
No,
right?
you don't always. It depends on the look that you're going. I prefer it that way because I like the velvet brown that you get, but some people do like to leave it this way, and you can kind of see this sort of alligator skin popping up. You can keep going so that all of it matches that, and then some people will just clear coat after that to seal it in, because otherwise it will keep brushing off every time you touch it. But some people do like that look.
Okay, I prefer it.
Well, I prefer it brushed as well, but I'm just saying there are some people who do that look.
So we're outside.
You never let me use the big one, and I need the big one.
You want the big one, you don't need it.
I need it for that project right there. Big one.
We're outside, and we're going to start the process of brushing the
charcoal off here.
The charcoal, yes.
I probably should have the mask. I don't have the mask, but I'll be careful because the wind's not blowing. So first swipe, you can see how much is going to come off here. Being real easy, but you can also see.
Yeah, you can see here on the table.
Yeah, you can see how this brings it down and actually makes it really nice and velvety brown. And you can see that difference from where I haven't done it to where I have. And that's what we'll do on all four sides and the two ends, and just try to brush as much of this char off as we can. Afterwards, I highly recommend taking a cloth and wiping it down as well, just to get any lingering bits off there.
You can see here how much, and a lot of it actually goes on the air, but you still can see how much of the char this process takes, right?
Yep.
And the brush is a hard bristle plastic, right?
Yeah. Some people do use a wire brush. I didn't like what it was doing to my pieces, so I switched to plastic.
And that's very satisfying for some reason. Satisfying.
Just gives it a little more of a finished look, which I like. I didn't even know these things existed, and I was looking for candles and they popped up, and I thought, hey, that looks cool. So
not absolutely necessary.
No, not necessary, but I just thought it looked cool and kind of gives our project a finished look.
Right, it makes it look more finished. So we grab an old project remnant that we have, right?
Yeah.
And we are going to create a second, even more rustic. More rusticer.
More rusticer.
Yeah.
And this is a log, that cedar that actually came from your land that
Right.
you were practicing slicing with. And we thought this would make another good project. And this piece, even as beautiful as it is actually going to be the flat side that goes down. And
you can find those things, by the way, even if you don't have the land like ours. Very often a neighbor or someone in the city might cut a tree, and they tend to leave branches. You don't need a big tree for this. You need a branch, right? I mean, this was probably what, 4 or 5 inches diameter. It's not a big piece of wood, so you can find them for free as well, right?
Right.
Don't go and pay. I mean, Michael's will sell it for you for $20, but
Of course they will.
there's no reason. There's no reason to do that.
Right.
And we're going to cut it to a desired length. We're not going to use the whole thing, but you could use the whole thing if you so desired.
Right.
Yeah, that's always plugged in.
Okay. So what you're doing now is just cutting the length that you want for this particular project. I'd say this is roughly 10, 11 inches, something like that.
10 inches, yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Sanding either by hand or using a power sander will give you the same result, a flat area that you can set your piece on. So you do not have to have a bandsaw to do this process. Hand sanding will also achieve the same result, will simply take a little bit longer.
Catching fire. Catching fire.
There's no fire.
Spark.
Spark
Where are the sparks?
Right here.
just laid against the bearing.
Okay. Very slow.
So
You see the spalding?
we have this slice taken off now. There's some spalding in there.
A little bit of sanding and it will be ready.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right.
Some sanding later. So what are we doing now?
We're taking off this rough bark that tends to, you know, it was good for the tree when it was alive, but it doesn't tend to want to stay on there unless you do some sort of shellac or something to keep it all in place. But I don't like doing that to such good smelling, beautiful wood. I don't want to put any shellac on it. So I'm just going to take the rough hairs of this cedar bark off so that it won't shed in my house.
We have dogs who said we don't have trees to shed.
Exactly.
Is that a necessary step or just a look?
No, it's totally how you envision your piece to come out.
Of course, we use a bandsaw as you saw, but you could also use a power sander to make a flat area if you don't have a bandsaw, right? We're using the tools we have because we have them, not because they are necessary for the project. In fact, this project can be achieved with a handsaw. The first part, the 4x4 candle holder, can be easily be achieved with a handsaw as well, right?
Once again, we are making some marks so that we know where to drill for the candles and the candle cups to be placed. And you're just looking for an even placement. And for you, this is just for your preference as far as aesthetics, right?
Yep.
And instead of using a pencil, we're going to use the nail punch, which is going to do that nice little pop.
Making the wood shop smell really good.
Yeah, I was thinking that makes more sense. Do you think you can do it now or you?
Cedar is just
Yeah,
amazing.
I can do it. Okay, so we are moving on to our third piece here, and we want to make sure that we set the depth of the drill bit to no more than where it needs to be for the
Cup.
candle cup. So we're just kind of measuring here, making sure that, you know, using the platform and the height of the piece, that we're not going too far down. We don't want to hit bottom.
Right, and then we've also set the stop bolt up on the top to make sure that it's going to stop at that depth.
Yep.
This is definitely an advantage that the drill press has when you're trying to make a straight hole into a curved space area. Much harder with a hand drill. So we're going to put some linseed oil.
Boiled linseed oil.
Okay, boiled linseed oil to bring the grain and the spalding. By the way, if you don't know, this is called spalding, right? And I like it. Some people avoid it in wood. I think it gives good character, right?
Yeah.
What do you think, Mrs. DIY?
Yeah, it's very interesting. I didn't know that before.
So any finish here will do. Usually boiled linseed oil will make it pop. So let's see.
Pop.
Did it pop?
Yeah.
You can use more. It's pretty cool, isn't it? Look at that spalding. I love the spalding. I don't know why people don't like it. Maybe let us know. Do you like spalding in your projects, or am I the weird one? Do you like it, Elpida?
I like it. I think it brings out a different character, and it just does something different for the wood. Gives it a little more interest visually.
Yeah, I think so. So this is Mrs. DIY's. The 4x4 is Elpida's, and the really rustic one is mine.
Mm-hmm.
Probably drinks a lot right now,
I was
right?
gonna say, yeah, because this wood was pretty dry. It's been inside with us for a while. It's probably gonna soak up quite a bit of this oil. You can see some more of the spalding there on the end, which is very interesting. And then so you may have to put another coat or two on here, depending. But you can see how this definitely brings out the color and the grain for a cedar board in particular. It's very nice. Yep, so we're going to do some more edges here, and this is just a really nice way it's finishing it, and it's bringing out just a very interesting look to this piece, which this has been sanded to take out just the hairy parts, as the Mrs. DIY called it, but it did leave some of the bark on there still.
Yeah, and if you look at the side, look how immediate the change is, right? With the linseed oil. It's just amazing. And again, this is not a requirement. I like it. I like putting oil on products.
Yeah, I think it definitely finishes your project, makes it look, finished, as opposed to just hanging out there. And this really, really does a nice job with this small candle holder.
And also shows how imperfections in wood can be highlighted versus, I mean, you could toss this piece of wood away. It has a lot of spalding. It has some, these are bag holes, and this is a bag hole. But to me, this is character. This is a beautiful piece.
Yeah, especially if you're going for that rustic look, this just really brings a lot of, as I have said, visual interest, because there's irregularities, there are differences in color, differences in texture. There's a lot of things that are here that you would miss if you just tried to take all of that away.
Absolutely. Yep. So friends, this is our project for today, and we hope you enjoyed it. We enjoyed it, even though it's another cold North Carolina day, right?
Mm-hmm.
We did enjoy it. We enjoy it more when it is a little warmer, but not too warm, because we're hard to please it, right? We don't want it very hot, we don't want it very cold.
We're like Goldilocks.
Exactly.
We want it just right.
So I enjoyed this product. How about you guys?
I enjoyed the project, yes.
The project and the product.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely there were not many things that tripped us, unlike our last week project. That was a lot of fun. I feel a beginner can do this and have really the same results, right?
Oh yeah.
The thing is, of course, we used boiled linseed oil for this, and with Suzuki Bang, the back one. Many options, as we said earlier, right? You don't have to stick with those. And one option for this one will be to poly it so it will not start flaking, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially if it has more likelihood for flakiness than this.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the bark is you can see it.
Right.
If you poly it, it kind of locks it to where it is.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think this is too bad. What do you think, Mrs. DIY? So I'm going to leave it the way it is right here.
Good. You have to like what you make.
Correct. Well, friends, thank you for watching us. We'll appreciate a thumbs up if you like what you saw, and we will appreciate a comment letting us know if that is the type of content you enjoy and you would like us to do more of. From Professor DIY, Elpida, and Mrs. DIY, have a wonderful week.